Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming back to King Hawk Royalty TV. I did the first half of a talk earlier. It got kind of cold in here, so you know I ain't trying to run my heat up. But I did a little talk earlier on the design and anchoring of Black people, which I always talk about. Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell. Which I'm talking about the way Black people are anchored, and I was talking about the way our messages should come into our better sectors like the church, because Black people do go to church on Sunday, or come into the community, whereas though those Black people who are asleep need to wake up. And we can't get everybody to do that. Of course we're not going to be able to do that. Everybody, some people are stuck, especially we have a problem also with baby boomers, but we have a problem with the code of conduct, but we are getting, throttled in. Like I said, there are people coming here. We're doing what we got to do, and we are going to do it. But I'm back again to the second half of my talk, and I just want to talk a little bit more about it and let you know that we're here. And see, there's a lot going on where we are looking at this and that, but we're not shaping ourselves in the code. Well, some of us are, and we're beginning the process. So what we need is to get those who want and to understand the significance of this, of political shaping and shaping and relegating to respect. Now we're being targeted by doing this. I mean, they've said a lot of stuff about these groups I've been in for the last 5 to 10 years. They're talking about we are this what they call it. We are confrontational. Anybody in business and politics is confrontational according to who they are and what they should be and have. Everybody. I mean, you got people right now confrontational about things that happen to them. Um, that when it happened to us, it happened to us even more. Like right now, we got Asians looking out for their well being and looking out to gain policy, which we know those a lot of that is manipulative tactics. The other day, we had a some Latino woman who stabbed an Asian to death with a knife. My condolences to that person. We don't want to see anybody hurt, but they said in the news media, it was out in California, I think, somewhere, but they said in the news media that it wasn't a hate crime, and that she had a mental health problem. But there was a Black guy who unfortunately got into a unfortunate altercation with an Asian. I guess he went and stomped her or something, and we didn't want to see that either. But he was mental ill. He was definitely mental ill. He killed his mother. The guy that killed his mother, I forgot his name. But that was never stated that this guy was mentally ill. It said it was a hate crime. But when it came down to the Latin girl or whatever, it was not a hate crime. That was said in the media. So we're looking at this as the people trying to target Black people to gain policy and to use us as a floor or whatever they need, but dehumanize the community. Like, I don't want to hurt Asian people. We're not out hurting Asian people, but we as community have been harmed more than Asian people, even by Asians. And we can't get a policy of protection from a president that said Black people voted him in. Do you guys know what's really happening to us? Like, those who supported Joe Biden, I want you to look at my comment section and tell me exactly what has he done for Black people in his first days in office with these executive orders that he's signing. Because he's got a lot of them and none of them for us. And what are the organizations doing for Black people as leadership in terms of reshaping, in terms of what we need in laws that need to make it? Even Black Lives Matter is not doing nothing for Black people. Like, you're going to understand what has been designed for people who are descendants of slaves. It ain't necessarily just immigrants, Black immigrants in the country that this is happening to. This is Black people who were slaves and their ancestors were slaves. The United States designed itself off of the engine of and the institution of chattel slavery and the suffering and the demise of Black people according to freedoms and according to protections. So we need to first understand that and what it is, and understand the lawless man and the anchoring of lawlessness, of our demise, of who we are in our existence. So we got people talking to us any kind of way in the comment sections on different groups where They feel like they can because it has been the code of conduct of our society. It's not necessarily people don't like you. No, this has been the code of conduct of the society to allow groups to harm black people and to use racist tactics and to use what they say right now with the Asians. You can't even say nothing, or if an Asian say you said something to them, they basically can say you committed a hate crime because the society is leaning toward that. They're not looking at the fact that when we were in Asian shops, Asians were being physical and committing assault against black people for thinking they stole something, going out the way and above of throwing human beings to the ground. You don't get to handle the law in your own hands. That's a hate crime too. And then, using the N word, people using the N word still, that shouldn't be allowed. But yet, if you say something anti-Asian right now, or you know, you are depicted as you're a criminal. But black people have been harmed way more than Asian people, and Asian people really don't belong here. I mean, I'm not saying that they can't be here. We have a community for Asians, but they don't need to be here without the correction of the natives. That's just unorthodox. We need to, Latin people neither. Nobody needs to be here without the correction of the people who died and bled for this country and built this country with our lives. Nobody. So we got people in the country benefiting from political perks coming from our Oval Office that we got together and put in, that we worked hard for, that we died for, we fought for. They're benefiting from those things like people. And you got a president that overwhelmingly black women or whatever have you so-called voted him in, giving these people political and authority over you to your face. This is what's going on right now. So right now, black people are depicted as a community harming Asians. But I see white people doing it, but they're not saying that. They understand it, they know it, we know it, but they're not choosing that as a narrative. It's going on, but they're not saying nothing. They're saying black people. And so they are getting policy off using the depicted narrative that black people are disorderly against a group. But we're the ones who's been affected in this country the worst way. That's all our war against you. And it's imperative that we understand how to come together as a group to stand for these things and to protect our people and to design a unit and a code of conduct and to become to have a structure, respectful structure of self-preservation for us. I don't care who you are, what group you are as a black person, you black first in this country. You are. You are black first in terms of what happens to all of us in the political anchoring that we had and were designed to as black people and descendants of slavery. Understand? And that's what we need to understand. We got people socializing themselves against us using political powers now with a president that you voted in. Now, in my opinion, Donald Trump was a lesser evil. I'm sorry. Because even though we got racists on both sides of our political wings, left and right, in my opinion, because he was agreeing to something and he was pro-American, which automatically helps black people because other people do come in and take advantage of what we did and built in our legitimized movements that we have, and they copy us. They copy who we are, and then turn around and be anti-black and use racist tactics against us as they gain power and authority. So Trump was pro-American, so that kind of helped black people if the country would allow it. But you see, we had a lot of Democrats standing up for other groups, trying to think and being benevolent is the way to go, but not having self-preservation. So it was a Jedi mind trick from white liberals. Now I understand that both sides are bad. I understand Donald Trump is a racist. The country itself is racist. It's you're relegated. You're in a space where you can act in a manner which affect people's lives as a white person or as somebody who's access whiteness in the country and practice racism. No, I know this. But you see, in terms of him agreeing to something when he was talking to Ice Crew, just anything, we put ourselves on the table. But when we put Joe Biden in office, black people, and he didn't agree to anything, he was telling you to your face, you're stupid. Talk to the civil rights leaders like they were nothing, and Al Sharpton, telling you that, basically laughing at you in an undertone, or telling you, get out the way. We got things to do. Thank you for your vote, but get out the way. We got people to protect. You did your job. You did what slaves do, and we appreciate it. That's who you are. All you need to do is have some cornbread and some greens and go dance in the street. And I can say thank you, and black people love that. We don't need to do a policy for you. You don't understand that. That's what he's saying. You're like children. You're fine. Or maybe you can get hurt, and I don't really want you around either. Or Kamala Harris wants you around. But we do appreciate you putting us here so we can get our country back on the way we want it. So we win we win the, you know, our structure, what we want done. You see, or the, you know what I'm saying? The popularity of government, we win that. So we do. That's important to us. You guys are amazing to do that, but I'm not giving you anything because you're not a people that deserve it. That's what the president is telling black people. It's dangerous for us not to understand lesser evils and not to understand what's good for us. I mean, you got racism on both ends or all through our government, but we will strategize in terms of our vote. Why would we give our vote to a entity or a power that has most? Democrats have more power. They own all the media. They choose what's going on. They gain a lot of access to business and power, and we put them back in power without them having to give us anything. And that's not the code of conduct. That's not even why you should be able to vote. That's not how political exchanges and anchoring exchanges are set up for your vote. You're supposed to get something, and everybody else know that. So when he got in office, other people started saying that they voted him in. Asians started saying we voted him in. They did it. Even uh, Longora, Eva Longoria said Latino woman voted him in, and she had to apologize. They said that stuff because they know you're supposed to get something for your vote, so they lied and said it was them because they understand mainly they're banking on the fact, well, nobody, black people not going to get anything, so we better say we did it, so we'll be more important. They understood, but black people was just wanting the recognition of voting him in, not nothing from it. James Clyburn, remember, he was saying, I don't want nothing for my vote. You know, I just, I'm past the promise. And he's a politician and higher up in terms of political standing and have a major political seat. And you're speaking for black people when you do that, sir. And you're saying that when Kamala Harris, I'm not just going to do anything for black people. You know, it's not like, well, black people need to have a situation where they can buffer themselves a little bit better into a policy and a little bit more legislation, respectful legislation, and so that black people can begin to relegate themselves in a respect and a growth and get away from crime and get away from privacy and getting more opportunities so they won't be people of privacy and adjacent to crime and things like that. So we're going to design some, and we need to begin the reparation package and the apology for slavery institutions who built themselves off of slavery that can put in the pot and they can put in the sector community that's designed for black people, so that black people will have a chance of surviving in a way of protection in a real apology of the institution of slavery and being descendants of slaves. People are still alive who fought Jim Crow, and these people who are still alive understand that museums are built from their pain, and all over the country where we got plantations where black people had to mirror a lot of pain, they should be able to go in free, and we can make black people tax free and tax exempt in a lot of different areas, so we can begin the process of anchoring black people in a respect because they were slaves and they did build a country. We don't need to look at the depictions of black people in terms of what's owed to them, because I know there are a lot of black people who will grab hold, foothold to these opportunities and build themselves. And they will point to those opportunities. They will point to those opportunities when someone's in need, and they'll have a home to come to in the political arena that protects them and that they feel safe to and appreciated. And some black people with families, their kids are anchored into these protections as well, and they can begin to buffer themselves and not be relegated to crime and profits, or relegated to profits and then adjacent to crime. And that will slow some of the crime down. It may not do it all, but we can begin the process of correcting black people in terms of business. We can understand by the numbers that they are on the economic floor and the social floor, and this is their native home. They built the country, and they need the opportunity. Those who are upstanding and those who are not upstanding, we can begin the process of how to get these people on board. And not, we understand that, people are going to be bad from every group, and black people can gain a foothold of controlling their communities and building a respect for themselves and identity and social construct, even not only just business. That was never conversation never had, because it's all out war against you, and you didn't ask for anything and strategize your vote. This is important to us. We have to live. We don't need people thinking that they can harm black people just because you're not a standing citizen or you depicted as that. I'm a standing citizen, but as a black man, I may be depicted as I'm not. But till I open my mouth and get to talking about what I know and how I am and how I speak and talk. But yet I'm depicted as a black man of something's wrong with me, or there's a racist person that's allowed to be racist because the country said you could. And when Mexicans or Latinos were supposed to be protected, they stopped ICE from picking them up. That's real power. They stopped ICE. They told police officers not to ask them whether they were illegal in the country. How can you be illegal, a criminal, and get protected in sanctuary cities in a country that my ancestors built? Blood sacrifice to paying demise with you getting protections that I never got, and you getting the government itself and the power of the liberties of this society that I'm anchored to as prisoner of war, to say you can be here illegally even, and police are not to harm you, but black people can get shot running from the police in the back, or you can shoot a child with a plain handgun or something according to that, and then get into courts, which is a theater, and say that these people aren't raised right or taught right, so they deserve to die. But people that come from other countries who bring drugs, lie to get here, stealing from the government, killing each other with machetes, they killing, there's a guy that Latinos killing, all that, but yet they deserve protection. That's because of the business camaraderie that the United States chose to do. And that's the benign neglect of the Democrat Party. That's the lawless man that's in control, which are the Democrats, a lot of them, and the government itself, which is bipartisanship. We need bipartisanship. And government itself is all doing it. But the Republicans, in terms of what happened, was picking, choosing to be pro-American. So we should have edged that on, because we are American people. We live under America in terms of its exchanges, but we are Americans. So we should have did that, not stand up in the street to fight for immigration and to fight for DACA, which is unconstitutional, that we don't have nothing as black people. And black politicians stood up for immigration because you thought you were doing something big and that you had made it somewhere, and you are political slaves to practice a preservation for a people that you know nothing about, but no self-preservation. These are governors, Keisha Lance Bottoms. These are the state senators that stood up for DACA and hollering in the House of Representatives. You know what I'm saying? So Eli Cummings and even John Lewis, rest their soul, may they rest in power. But they stood up for immigration, not for black people, and stood up for DACA and got all these people in here buffering them to be even school teachers, nurses, and owning businesses. And black people are shouting in the background about what's due to us, while other people now take part in racism as they gain power. That is dangerous. And we are Americans. And we built the country, and deserving of protected class and first class citizenship, where Dr. King left off. This is what you need to understand. And it's hard to get black people to think of. Black people want to think we okay. You want to feel like, oh, we okay, we fine. We're not. We got other people coming here, Arabs and East Indians owning gas stations on the corner are black people with loans and stuff because they throttle into our government in a way of protecting, a way of protections, of being protected. But we are people told, get off welfare. You got to pay more than that. You got to pay $5 for that juice, and things of that nature. But never nothing set aside for black people to anchor to in terms of a building, in terms of a building and the construct of a society, of a community, and of a social construct of respect. It comes with a dollar amount. So he's giving all these packages and deals. Even with the COVID check, people who had businesses got more COVID money. That's why they're getting the businesses refaced. Black people don't have businesses really. So they didn't get that kind of a check, and they're not relegated to that space of capital. So we black people are dealing with capitalism inside the country that we built. And one time in the 60s, we did own things, but what happened was we didn't understand and got off cold looking to sit next to white people through the embarrassment of separatism and Jim Crow, which we want to correct it. We should have been looking at the economics to keep ourselves sustaining community instead of trying to come inside your schools and come inside your restaurant or white people restaurants and schools, get the white only sign taken off because it was the embarrassment of black people being under a system in Jim Crow. And we fought for that, but then we put our energy in that and not in the real thing, and that's economics. And Dr. King said he probably led us into a burning house. And then when he began to do the economics, that's when his life was taken. And we dropped the ball as a community there through a fear tactic, which the United States has allowed. And they are still owing us. We are in litigation. They're owing us at large now reparations to repair. They owe us $20 trillion of repairings to anchor us in a repair project that's going to help us. And we should be tax free because there's groups here that are tax free who were harmed, but we're not, and we should be. People right now going around with images of slaves and slave plantations and stuff that are our grandparents, but we don't get any legislative power or any political protections. But other groups do, Asians do, and we're gonna say the slave descendants are hurting them. It's ridiculous. And then you giving other people sanctuary cities and building a project DACA, a multi-million, maybe $1 billion system that's going to protect them, give them housing, food, shelter, and tell police officers not to touch them, or power. So this is what we need to understand what's happening to us. And that president that is in office right now is not a friend of black people. And Miss Harris isn't either with her East Indian self. So anyway, guys, or East Asian or whatever, I just want to come here and keep talking and letting y'all know what the greater good is. And my name is King Hawk, Royalty TV. Please subscribe. I love you guys out there. We're gonna continue to talk. And black people, keep your head up and pay attention. Follow the new voices of black media and subscribe to us at the grassroots because this is going from the grassroots on up. Keep following. I'm going to come here and talk and point to things, point to news stories, and let you know what's going on as we go forth. Thank you for joining me, King Hawk Royalty TV. Subscribe, hit the notification bell.